Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Signals and Symptom Podcast. And today is a special day. Uh, Interestingly, John Dayton is a good friend with Harvey and knows Ed, knows me, etc. But his journey is superb. He's actually a physician, first and foremost. Then he's a Stanford faculty. Then he's a practicing physician. I don't know, he can update that. And more importantly, he has a fund that he is sort of helping other startups to basically truly impact healthcare reformation, restructuring as we see this. So many hats that he wears, and therefore I'm so excited he's here to learn from him. It's going to be an open discussion. As usual, I'm going to go ahead with some updates, and one of the major updates is from my company, Save Life AI, and we got another FDA approval done. Oh my God, it again went through, and we have Ed Marks again. So we're going to go ahead and show that. Let me just show it. Give me 1 second. So we actually got another FDA approval, and that is just going to be insane in terms of how we're going to be actually doing market opportunities. This is our second FDA software as medical device approval. We have two more in application, which we are expecting somewhere between the next 30 to 60 days to get approval. And then this year, we're going to have a batch of four more FDAs at least, depending on how much I can actually figure out. And one of these days, we're going to go from there. So, massive update from Save Life AI. Thanks to my team, they worked amazing on all of this. Going with a framework. So, this is released from Google Research, HEAL, a framework for health equity assessment of machine learning performance. And this is so important that we actually have to talk about health equity. And this is really why me and Harvey are interested. Harvey is going to come back in a minute, and he's going to give you international perspective on things, that both in terms of they are running faster than US because of issues of regulation and everything here in US is concerned. But more importantly, the promise of AI, the minute the tokens become cheaper, we're going to see, basically, again, as we keep calling, demonetization and democratization of intelligence. And at some point in time, we're going to see this, and health equity is extremely, extremely important as we go along in terms of this. And Harvey, where are you right now?
I am in the jungles of Amazon, and you're going to get a kick out of this. The reason I'm able to stream is they actually have Starlink or a portion of Starlink here, which is crazy.
Ooh, insane. And this is where the real issue comes in, that we are not only democratizing and demonetizing intelligence, we are also democratizing connectivity in the jungles of Amazon, where Harvey comes from. He looks like an animal. I'm just messing with you, but he's gonna show some. Do you have some pictures? We'd love to share that, because I would love to see what's going on in the jungle right now.
Oh, it's fun. Yeah, I'll definitely we'll put them in, we'll add them to the show notes.
Okay, perfect. We'll just add them. Another thing that Google Research released is health specific embeddings for dermatology and pathology. Now, you have to understand that we have worked a lot on clinical LLMs. Actually, I'm out of the dermatology and pathology specifically. And one of the biggest technical issue with producing LLM is essentially causing what we call adding them, embeddings. Embeddings is the first problem to solve, then you go into intelligence. And they actually did a very good paper on this, that how we're going to go ahead and generate embeddings from tumor to no tumor, etc. So go ahead and read this paper. It's fascinating if you're looking at it. Empowering surgeons for integrated synthetic data solution for mastering complex clinical scenarios. And we talked about this last week, or with Harvey, and we're going to come to the digital twin part. And this is really when the word synthetic data comes in. Synthetic is pure synthetic. It's not like twinning someone's original data, but the conceptually it remains the same, that you actually use synthetic data to actually create complex scenarios. And we do this all the time. We go through custom workflows now, and then we create all of this synthetic data. As a matter of fact, Mammoth site, we did not use it as training, but at least FDA has provided synthetic data of mammograms that we use for our testing. So synthetic data is going to become part and parcel, and it is very important to look at these complex clinical scenarios to produce synthetic data, because all the edge cases cannot be covered with real data. Reinforcement learning for LLM accuracy in reasoning and classification of radiology reports. And this is very important to use reinforcement learning itself, because what it does is that it really does improve LLM accuracy. There's a whole process. It's very hard to put it into production. You have to be very careful. But again, it's an amazing, fascinating read if anyone's interested in understanding reinforcement learning specifically for essentially clinical reports. This is Harvey's favorite topic. Harvey, I don't know if you looked at it, but this is actually one of the guiding principles that I saw. I'm going to send it to you. I know you're in Amazon and you haven't probably looked at it, but this guiding principles, assessment methods, life cycle staging, oversight mechanisms was beautifully written in terms of how AI governance need to be established, especially now that FDA has said, I don't know how to regulate it. I don't care about CDSS. You figure it out. And we're going to talk to John about it in a minute. What his experience been in terms of CDSS and FDAs and everything. Key concepts in vision language and reasoning abilities. This is a very beautiful research paper. Concept VLM achieves state of the art result only using 1% of original data.
Hmm.
Insane.
Yeah.
Do you understand like where and this is so true, by the way. I used to order like 1 million images, and now I'm getting the same results with 10,000 images. And the way that the structure is going, it is going to be insane. And one of the things that chest x-ray is going to come in a research project from us, because we got IRB, you're going to see that coming through our social feeds as well. So keep following that how we are also utilizing some of these concepts already in production. We're just testing, final testing, and then releasing it. Efficient image segmentation in the era of Mamba and foundation models. Mamba is a very different architecture than a transformer model. It does, of course, inherit a lot of things. But what the beauty of this program was that if you look through that CNN and emergence of this particular CAN, which honestly, I don't know, it was a very technical paper. But at the end of the day, they were able to compare SAM, which is segment anything model, with CANs, and then it's an amazing read. I'm not going to be using it, but somebody who's actually clinically and technically inclined should use it. Automated extraction, very, very important. This is becoming part and parcel of last time we discussed visit an AI-based visit navigator. It is going to be truly transformative as we go along. Electronic health record amid the rise of generative AI. And this is, again, is going to be a core topic that we're going to discuss with our friend John, Dr. Dayton, and then understand his journey and his sort of approach, and even not just basically understanding the problems, but what is he funding from his VC for this particular problem as we go along. This is so good. Subspecialty specific foundation model. So there is a foundation model that cares of everything from finance to healthcare to this, which is GPTs and plots and everything. Then you have foundation model for radiology that can take care of CT, MRI, ultrasound, X-rays. And then you have specifics foundation models for this particular niche. And this is something that we have been working on, right? For example, right now, we talked about chest x-ray, mammocyte. We actually, on the back end, even there's no FDA approval and we cannot show those results, but at the back end, there's essentially a mammogram subspecialty specific foundation model is working. We can give so much more results, but FDA hasn't approved it, so we can't show it. But at the end of the day, this is literally our back end. And this is, again, very important for people who are trying to understand how GI pathology is going to work in the future. This actually includes both, So that's the idea behind it. You have pathology, radiology, endoscopy in one foundation model. And the idea behind it is that it has also some clinical information. And that foundation model not only can cumulatively do multimodal thinking, but also do cumulative reasoning. And if you use a whole big, massive foundation model, there's a lot of hallucinations. There's actually a mirage effect. They don't even look at goddamn images. So this is really what the wave of the future is going to be. We're going to have 200, 300 of these specialty specific foundation models, and then we're going to serve this. Agent Clinic, a beautiful benchmark. As you know, I love benchmarks. I do constantly check benchmarks. Please review this benchmark. It is fantastic. And then a digital twin for tracking and forecasting glycemia with septic patients in ICU. Again, we talked about Harvey, yes, last time. Please review this paper. It's extremely amazing. Stanford just released, according to this paper, an open source, but I cannot find it. But anyways, they have released a global multimodal data set. According to the paper, it is open source or will be open source. But that's just a truly amazing paper. They have done data sources, extraction, annotation, global recruitment, beautifully done. Please review this. They actually have a massive. This is actually released today, so I haven't been able to fully review this. But what they have done is that they are actually now producing a system in which people can now contribute de-identified data, etc. All of that. So Stanford, I don't know, John. Maybe you know more about it, but this is like truly fascinating stuff. And then, of course, lastly, mapping AI startup investment innovations in healthcare using five-tier AI system complexity framework. Um, Again, I don't know if you were able to review this as well, but we're going to talk about this. So coming back to John. John, again, extremely grateful you're here today. First, take us through your journey, your life journey, in terms of from a physician to faculty to entrepreneurship to, I don't know, VC fund founder. If I'm saying something wrong, please
No, yeah, no, that's all
apologize.
right. Yeah, first of all, thanks so much for having me on the show. It's great to connect with you guys, and thanks for the lit review. That I obviously have a lot of articles I need to be reading in the next week or so. Fascinating stuff there. Just a little bit about background for myself. I'm an emergency physician. I live in Utah. I started practicing in Utah initially, and in addition to working in emergency medicine, I like to be involved in innovation. So I was involved in getting a Utah chapter for Society of Physician Entrepreneurs off the ground, and so that was a really fun experience because we would feature local doctors that have brought products to market. We'd host pitch events, and this was all pre-COVID, where we'd have these big gatherings. Um, I really enjoyed doing that. I had transitioned to working up at the University of Utah, and where I was doing research on innovative delivery models, looking at freestanding ERs, particularly those built by academic centers, and what those kind of metrics were looking like. And obviously, COVID changed everything. Um, Fast forward a couple of years, and I was working on the Navajo reservation, which was a great experience. I felt really useful, but it was a little bit of a grind because I'd drive, from my home at Salt Lake City, about 8 hours, work on the Navajo reservation I do like 5 or 6 night shifts. Then I'd drive home and try to catch up on my sleep and try to binge parent, and I really enjoyed it. But with everything, COVID changing everything, I thought, I've been looking at doing innovation, and I've been trying to figure out how I'm gonna add that to my practice, and playing around with the idea that ER doctors, we're famous for burning out, and maybe this is something that will give me some career longevity and kind of help me find a unique niche. And so I was looking at MBA programs, and one of my friends who was at Stanford said, we're just starting this innovation fellowship. Why don't you come join us? And very non-traditional fellow. I'd been practicing for over a decade, but I went back to school excited. What a cool experience! So I was in Palo Alto for 2 years. I did the innovation fellowship, and then part of that program was you can do the biodesign faculty fellowship on top of that,
Mhm.
and they gave me money to pursue an MBA. And so, phenomenal fellowship. I recommend it to anybody, particularly the folks looking at business in medicine, innovation in medicine, and people saying, maybe I'm going to do something in VC, or maybe I want to be a chief medical officer, or I'm going to do a traditional path, but I want to add, I want to be an entrepreneur and build things inside the system. So that was a phenomenal experience. So luckily, I'm still on faculty at Stanford because I've been involved with some research. I still go back there and do shifts, but now I'm full time in Salt Lake City with Intermountain Health, and so I do 12 shifts a month. But as Junaid referenced, I'm in the process of raising a venture fund. I've been involved in VC for the last couple of years. I'm a LP, or limited partner investor, in a venture firm called Springtide. Their first 3 funds and then a venture partner for their second and third fund as well. And then I'm also an advisor for Intermountain Ventures, particularly in the acute care space, as far as finding interesting companies, talking about what we need in the ER, talking about what's out there that's going to help Intermountain be innovative and on top of things. And so that's been a really interesting journey. Back to my SOAP days, Society of Physician Entrepreneurs, as part of that, setting up all these pitch events. I ended up meeting the local tech transfer experts, local VCs, local angel investors, and I was invited to be part of Salt Lake City Angels. That was a really unique experience because about 30 to 40% of what they get as far as new companies are healthcare based. So me and two other physicians that were part of that group, we did a lot of digging, saying, is this a big enough need? Is this something that's going to grow? Is this something that will work? And then ended up leveraging those connections from working as an angel to working in VC. And so now I'm kind of full circle where I've been involved, but this is the first chance to build my own. So I'm in the process of raising a $5 million fund, me and my partner, Jamie Edwards. And our thesis is, well, I'm a physician that has experience in building effective pilots and regulatory strategy, and where he's an operator with a background as an entrepreneur in residence for Startup Health and with an operator in the telehealth and the RPM space. We really focused on helping early companies make sure their idea is successful, and then he's helped them move along with distribution and coaching. So we're still raising. We're just over 2.5 of our 5 million that we're wanting to raise. But we're starting to deploy that, and our first investment and one that's in the pipeline, both very interesting AI companies. And so great timing to talk about that. I appreciate you guys having me on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for giving this amazing journey. I'm going to let Harvey go first because he's in Amazon and Starlink may actually not go through this. Harvey, this is an amazing journey. I have so many questions, but I'll let you go first.
Well, John, thanks for coming, buddy. I'm biased when I say I think ER doctors are pretty amazing people, and I'm glad to see that I have a fellow amazing ER doctor with me.
Not better than neurologists. No way. Go ahead.
Well, we'll let John's resume speak for itself over yours, but I'm kidding there, buddy. I'm joking. No, but seriously, John, I appreciate all the stuff you did in the freestanding and you and I's relationship. And I always like asking the question, why? Why do you do what you do? Is it the AI healthcare? Is it the improvement of health? Is it the technology? What is it, John, that's pushing you to do all these things?
Yeah. It's a great question. I think it's kind of a combination of being a physician in general and then being an emergency physician as well. I think we're kind of self-selected to trying to help people get better. And then in the ER, we see it's kind of a microcosm of the health system. We see the emergencies from every specialty, but we're also the safety net. So if something else is failing in the system, we see it in the ER. And so I think early on, looking at different emergency department options and saying, hey, not every hospital needs a plastic surgeon and a neurosurgeon and a stroke center. And so freestandings work very well, kind of along the hub and spoke model. We bring care to this network. We leverage a lot of telehealth, and it's a smart way to bring several different kinds of acute care to a smaller community. And so I really enjoyed that at the time. I looked at, between the private freestandings and the academics, the patients tend to be happier because they get in quicker. We feel like we utilize those resources well. And so that was some of the initial research I was doing, is figuring out, all right, is this a safe model? Can we do it? And ASAP gave me the opportunity to lead a task force on that, to say, we should standardize this. Just like we're talking about AI right now with guardrails and standards. Like at the time, it's like if we're going to have freestanding EDs, how do we make sure that they represent the best of emergency medicine, and they're not just glorified urgent cares, that we have board certified doctors there. And so Harvey was on that task force with me, and we had a bunch of academic docs, a bunch of folks in the private sector, and kind of figured out, all right, let's have emergency care. Let's not water it down. Let's make sure we address what we're doing. And so that was an interesting thing to do. And then as I kind of changed my my focus as far as research with artificial intelligence. Obviously, I did not dive in to the length that Harvey had, but I realized I'm going to need to know how this works if I'm going to utilize it in practice. And so I did some executive education through MIT, and then I did the certificate through the American Boards of AI in Medicine. I think Harvey did that as well. But I realized, even though I don't know how to code, I can still be a physician and figure out what can I do with AI and what can't I do, and how do I discern the difference, and then how do I stay on top of that. So that's been a major interest to me. I've written some papers with some colleagues at Stanford, and then one of the things I very interested in is knowledge translation. And so, we're at a point where I'm not trying to be disparaging, but by the time something gets into textbooks, it's almost outdated. And so, try to look at what are the resources that are online, what are the communities that are meeting, who are the experts in the space that we can follow. And so I built a big upskilling document on LinkedIn saying, hey, if you're wanting to be on top of AI, here are some resources for you. And if you're looking at business, in medicine, here are some resources. Some traditional like fellowships, some non-traditional like conferences, and online groups and Slack channels. And so a lot of great knowledge coming out of these groups. And so that's where I've been with kind of my focus of research and knowledge translation, and kind of helping build, trying to figure out the best way to provide care.
Love it.
So number one, you guys may be able to see the screen. This is Claude Code working right now, coding as we speak. These are all the different projects. Personal injury, clinical ops, Tabber. Tabber is testing data, benchmarking, and of course, auto research. This is Codex. I just want to make sure that everyone understands that coding is no longer as a skill. So think of coding as a task. Software engineering is on top of it, and then product engineering is on top of it. And then what I'm doing is that I have completely removed coding as a task. As a matter of fact, I've fired 50% of my company because they did not understand that coding as a task is gone. We're moving towards software engineering, which is also going to be done in the next 2 months. And then we're going to go to product engineering, which I believe is going to be done in 4 to 5 months. So we are witnessing an evolution. I just want to make sure that, John, of course, not everyone needs to be a coder, not everyone needs to understand this, but more importantly, people need to understand that things are moving so fast, and physicians who are thinking, oh, I don't know coding, should I get into it? That's no longer a problem. Bring your ideas to people like me. We're happy to, talk to him and maybe present it to John, and he's probably going to fund it. Again, I apologize. I needed to show this, that people understand that physicians are doing coding on a massive scale now. Like literally this ran all night, by the way. So it created a whole module for me overnight. And now I'm just auditing from different coders. And then I'm going to present it to my developers and say, launch it. So it's insane, John, by the way.
It's a huge point, though, because I think looking at AI and some of these tools in general, I think there's, some nervousness, with some of our colleagues, or there's something that there's because they think, oh, I don't know how to do this, I can't jump in. And I think one of the great things with these tools is it's really going to lower the barrier for physicians building things that improve medicine. I look, back in the mid 2010s, I built a medical education company. And it was a big lift because at the time I thought, I got to build this website. I want physicians to get on there and rate their favorite educational resources. And I ended up going through like 3 different developers trying to build it out. And now I look at this and this is something I could have probably vibe coded in a weekend. But that's something that keeps physicians from saying, well, I can't build the solution, or I can't build this improvement. And really that's how we improve healthcare, because we see the pain points and we're the best position to say, hey, this is something that needs to be done to, advance, whatever process we're trying to fix.
Yeah.
That's where this Save Life AI. Go ahead.
No, buddy. No, go ahead, and then after you, bud. Go ahead. Yeah.
So that's one of the things that you have to understand in the future, and we're going to talk about it once we go from the mission to production to VC. as that. Where's the moat? And Save Life AI, that's what it brings, like 2 FDAs, high trust cybersecurity framework certified, global data integration through Particle Health, Health Gorilla, all of this combining into a full vertical stack of clinical, radiological, and everything. Not to toot my own horn, but again, what we are trying to do over here is teach every physician, because that's where our goal is, to present to the board member like Ed Marks and the VC fund like John better, so we can move this needle forward faster, as Harvey continuously saying that why is Singapore and Dubai is doing better than US. I mean, they should. I mean, good, glad to do that. But Harvey, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I'm just going to echo what John and actually you're saying. The fact that we can now show an MVP and say to the VC or the hospital, hey, this is how it works. Now, my favorite phrase is, we don't know what we don't know. Example, in the 22 when I wrote ChatGPT Healthcare, people were like, Harvey, what the hell are you talking about ChatGPT and Healthcare? Like, I don't understand. Fast forward a couple months ago, OpenAI now has ChatGPT Health as an official product. Another example, when generative AI started becoming a thing, in 23, I started showing discharge instructions using comic strips, using cartoons, and converting and helping hospitals and children's hospitals how to create this moat. Fast forward when we started having more clones, as creating an item for NASA, so we could do a edge technology doctor to be on the shuttle, to be on the moon, and eventually Mars and International Space Station, leveraging AI. Fast forward now, we're looking at AI agents, and I've created my own AI agents with all my wearables, my Whoop, my iPhone, Aura, and all that stuff. And I'm creating what a digital twin of myself, and I'm vibing coding myself. And this is what I would have probably had a friend help me a year or two ago. Now I'm just like, you know what? I think I can do it, and I am. And now every morning, Janelle got a kick out of this. I get a text with where I'm at, my medical, my age, my sleep patterns, my HRV, and I hate reading, FYI, because I read all the time. I get a podcast. It's like a 1 minute podcast, and it's, good morning, Harvey. You did sleep last night. Your HRV is this. You needed this. Your vascular is getting a hit because you didn't do X, Y, Z. And then I get a full 1 page, like 1 or 2 minute report, and I'm like, okay, crap. Tonight I'm going to sleep. I'm going to exercise today, and it's going to make a difference. But I'm vibe coding all of that. So my point is, I'm now able to go to a CEO, go to a VC, and be like, look, here's how this works. Here's a real example.
That brings up another great point, because so many of our patients are kind of DIYing with these tools, and if we're not familiar with that, we're in a situation where they're going to say like, well, why don't they know this? Why aren't they adding it to their practice? Why can't they help and utilize this? And so I'm a big fan of how open evidence is available for the physician model, but it's inevitable that someone's going to type in like a ChatGPT, these are my symptoms, what do I need to worry about? And it's like 10 years ago, someone would come to the ER and they say, these are my symptoms, I Googled it, this is what they said I needed to do. And now it's very common for someone to come in and say, oh, I looked on ChatGPT and these are the labs I need. And some physicians, I think, could like bristle at that a little bit, but I kind of take the standpoint, great, you're invested in your healthcare. Let's talk about these. Let's talk about where these tests will be useful. Let's talk about which ones we do in the ER and which ones you should do with your family doctor. And that creates a great opportunity to say, let's roll out the emergencies based on your concern here. Whatever we see there, where we're going to treat. If we don't, sounds like we already know the next step for your follow-up with your family doctor. And so it's great to be able to have that transition conversation.
Beautiful. This perfect transition for Ed. So Ed actually is very important for overall conversations, because he has served as multiple board members, chief CIO. First, Ed, any question to John, and then what he just said, which is very dear to you, in terms of having regular patients access to these tools without. And unfortunately, I mean, there's one thing to think of gold standard and full authority and trustworthiness, and there's one thing that they're going to use it. What the hell are we going to do? So question to John and comments on what he just said.
Yeah, well, one of the benefits of live podcasting is a surprise guest. So we have Isla. Isla's a spa dog. She belongs to my wife, a clinician who has a med spa, but she was feeling ill today, and she somehow found her way to my studio, but she's more than welcome. She's,
Absolutely.
So yeah, and she's not AI generated.
Are you sure Harvey is not AI generated? And whatever you just said, I want you to first answer. Do we need more Harveys, AI generated Harveys in future?
More digital twins, right?
Go ahead, sir.
So
I can't hear Ed, but you can hear Ed. I can only hear you for some reason. I'm gonna come back. I'll be right back.
Okay.
no, this is super great, and I'm just thinking about the comments made early on when Junaid, after you went through kind of the literature review, which is probably the best part for me all the time because it's so hard to keep up with everything. And so, John, you're obviously a very learned person, and you've done all these. At Stanford, you were describing all the different programs you went to at MIT, and now with the venture fund, you have all this exposure. How would you recommend? So how does all of this translate down to the hospital?
Yes.
Right. So I was just keynoting. I had over 3 talks over the weekend and until yesterday morning, and it's to hospital audiences. And I'm telling you, we're all talking about this, but they're just, hey, was the network up? Did we get to fill our positions? What's the budget like? What we're talking about is there's a huge gap. Any recommendations, like when you work with your health system and other leaders, or what you've seen out there, any recommendations to how do we close this gap between what is possible and is happening out there in the field, and then actually making it practical on a daily basis at our hospitals where a lot of the care is given?
Yeah, phenomenal question. And so to speak to that, I'll kind of lean on my experience at Intermountain Ventures. And every hospital system has a set of goals that they're working on for the next year. Understanding what those goals are and then integrating AI into that can be a big part. So, with Intermountain, a lot of it focus on this year are things like supply chain, anything transformative with AI. There's service lines that they want to improve and they want to get better. With these, really interesting, Intermountain had a conference recently where they just talked about innovation. They have a leader for AI there. They have their chief tech officer there. They have their CFO. And so where everyone's aligned on saying, this is our vision, this is what we want to improve, they kind of have a breakdown of saying, hey, we want AI to improve our education. We want to use AI to address our physician shortages needs. We want AI to improve our clinical workflows in need-specific situations, and we want AI to help with patient engagement, and we want it to make our billing more effective and that sort of thing. And so they've identified several areas where they have where they feel like different technology and new tools can advance. And so that's really helpful for companies that say, hey, listen, I've got this great clinical workflow because, let's say maybe they're in the healthcare, maybe they're in like the mental health space, and they're saying, people are slipping through the cracks between their primary doctor and psychiatry. Could we build like a coach, or could we build a tool that integrates the second? Or, it takes a long time to see a psychiatrist after a primary care referral. Is there like a digital bridge that we can use? And so I think knowing what the hospitals are facing makes a big difference. And a lot of hospitals are facing the same thing. They're in a situation where they say, boy, we can use artificial intelligence to really improve these clinical workflows. We've got to make sure it's safe. We've got to make sure the companies we're working with have done pilot work, they have research, they're evidence-based, and then we can move forward. So when these companies come to sell to a health system, they got to think, well, there's several different audiences that I need to connect with. I need to make sure that what I'm building aligns with the hospital mission, so the CEO is going to like me. I need to make sure I'm going to save the money or produce a new revenue stream or make something more efficient for them, so the CFO is going to like me. I need to make sure what I'm doing integrates with their current electronic health record and their digital health stack, so that the CTO likes me. And then I got to make sure this is a need the physicians even want in the first place. So I have a physician evangelist that's going to support me. And so that's a really heavy task to think I've got to sell to 4 different people. But you do that by speaking in all their language. You got to make sure your vision's aligned, that your finances make sense, that you're building something they want that integrates within the system. And I think that's a big thing to understand. kind of shifting a little bit. A lot of the specialty societies have been really proactive in this because, you have physicians with all variable levels of AI familiarity and training and use. And so it's interesting. I work with two of my colleagues at Stanford, Dev Dash and Andy Chu, and they said, how are we going to get just kind of baseline AI knowledge through emergency medicine?
Yeah.
We're going to need to involve all the specialty societies, ASAP, SAEM, AAEM. Let's have a joint group that says this is, and we'll recommend some best practices for AI implementation into their EDs. And then we'll address how we're doing this through education, because you have, at Harvey's home state, you've got Texas, you have the med school at El Paso is now doing a combined med school and AI combined degree. That's very ahead of the curve. You have places like Stanford and Harvard where they're giving their kids, their students LLMs to work with for their education. But not everybody's getting that. And so you have to say, what are we going to do for the new grads versus the folks that have been practicing forever, so they have some baseline familiarity with how they can use that and how they can move forward. And so I think it's really incumbent on hospitals addressing their needs, but then the specialty societies looking at that, and then companies that are coming to pitch to them saying, all right, how am I going to meet the pain points of all these different groups? But that's how they're going to gain traction. That's how they're going to be effective.
Thank you so much I'm going to just take a step back and sort of summarize everything. Number one, biomedical at Stanford is amazing. They have done a lot of coding and they've made it open source. So go ahead and check that out, including Harvey. I don't know if you know this. They actually have a full-blown application where you can pull data from Apple HealthKit and Android, completely open source, and then you can build on your applications quickly and faster. Now, there is the second thing, of course, I want to read Anthony Chang's ABAIM. Please do attend that course. I highly recommend it for any physician or non-physician interested in building healthcare AI and clinical work. I did not do the advanced one. Actually, Harvey did the advanced one as well. I was actually Harvey was probably with the first cohort, but I was within the first 3 or 4 cohorts. Extremely important, must, and very cheap, amazing. And also Anthony Chang is a superb teacher, and make sure you attend AI Meds every time. So that's number 2. And then now we're going to come to journeys. So we have 3 for the clinicians and Edward Marks, which is a different journey. And there are different journeys that you can take in terms of your path from clinician to entrepreneur. And I'm going to push back. And as you know, I ask hard questions. And one path was mine. Physician, learn, execute as a startup. Then Harvey's, learn, and then physician, learn, angel investor, basically influencer at the end of the day. That's second path. And then third path is John Dayton, who is physician, learn, and then become an investor. There are so many different paths and then so many ways, but people come asking me that those 2 things that I told, biomedical fellowship is a separate thing, and then of course this AI Med. But other than that, did MBA really help you? Or was it? My question is that, and this is, me and Harvey are really pissed because I tell Harvey, you are not going to do AI. We and you hit a very, I think that you need to learn on the job as being a startup, because I need to do marketing. As a matter of fact, I was at V1 Health, which was a startup for 2 years. And basically I said, rather than putting money into an MBA, which was free for you, which is, again, if it wasn't free, would you do it? That's second question. And then the third point is, rather than doing this as a physician, should they actually join and then get access to real world data decisions? Because let's just assume right now I fired my whole marketing team, and I want to teach to another physician why I did that. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Is that MBA going to teach you or not? So question number 1, should we do an actual MBA if it's not free? Let's just be honest. If it's free, you should do it. But then the second question is, when you are looking at a VC and you're talking to Junaid Kalia and says, is it more important that he has an MBA, or is it more important he has experience in a real startup before you fund a new startup? Tough questions, John. Believe me.
Yeah, no,
People hate me about it. So, and especially my besties over here.
I'm going to try to be as diplomatic as I can about it because I know people have been very successful going both routes. Here's my take, and here's why I decided to do an MBA. MBAs are important for the knowledge and the network. You can get knowledge a lot of different ways, but the network is crucial. The other thing is where I have a totally different, traditional track. I'm a physician. I work in the ER. It's having an MBA is a little bit of a level of street cred to say, hey, I am a physician, but I did this training so that I can work in this other space. VC is it's a hard nut to crack. It's a hard thing to get into. And so you want to stack the deck in your favor. The other thing that I like about it is you can be very intentional about the MBA you do. I wouldn't recommend just any MBA. I wouldn't recommend just any EMBA. I was very specific when I looked at it. Harvey did the one out of Tennessee that's specifically for physicians. I think that's a great a way of saying, hey, listen, this is a group of physicians. They want to do executive level work. We're going to train them on that. I did mine through Johns Hopkins because a lot of healthcare leaders go through that. It's very healthcare driven, and they have different subspecialties within their MBA. So I did my MBA, but I had two focuses. I did healthcare entrepreneurship, and I did venture capital. So I studied things very specifically related to what I wanted to do when I finished. And so I think you have to do the thing that's right for you. I'm not discounting, work that people do on the side. We're physicians. We're lifelong learners by default. That's what we're going to do. But I think you have to be kind of intentional about where you get that knowledge, who you're getting it with, and if you're saying, hey, listen, I'm going to make a career upskill, then I want to stack all the cards in my favor so that I can have this position when I finish. And so that's why I did the MBA. And so it's kind of the same thing with VC. It's like who gets a big VC job with like Andreessen or Kleiner Perkins? It's someone that went to like a top tier MBA program, or on the health investor side, it's someone that built a really cool company, and so they've proven their street cred that way as well. And so, like with the Stanford Emergency Department, since we lean in so heavily on innovation, we actually have two great residents that are investors with funds. One's Sherman Lung from Andreessen, the other one's Andrew Perenbath from Pear VC. And so we've been able to say, hey, listen, we are so leaned on innovation. We have this innovation fellowship. We're able to attract folks that are interested in doing in that space. And so you look at Sherman's colleagues with the biohealth division of Andreessen. It's Vanita Agrawala, who is a physician herself, and then Julie Yu, who built a healthcare company. She proved her chops with that. And so that's kind of how you get to those big spots in VC. So I think it is a mix of both, but I think you want to do everything in your favor to get there. And so that's
love it.
A long way.
I'm gonna add to that because I got the MBA as well, and here's I'm gonna add to what John said. You're gonna laugh at my statement. I got my MBA because I had a straight MBA, and I had started a company. I had over 400 employees, so I was on my 40th company, and I was well known. But the fact of people that didn't know me, they saw me as Dr. Castro. Now, when they look me up, they're like, oh, wait a second, this guy has an MBA. Let me dig a little deeper. Let me look into him. And then they find my street MBA and realize, okay, this guy is the real deal. And I'm not tooting my own horn. I'm just saying that's the reason I personally got the MBA. And to John's point, yes, I think the network effect is huge. Being in the know of other people that think like you, do things like you. Like John and I have been friends all these years, not by coincidence. It's just because we are similar-minded, similar paths, and we're networking with other people similar to us. Right, John?
Just one more thing to add. I really enjoy like advising companies and helping them. I really enjoy working in the financial space, but I thought I want to do this better, and I feel like doing an MBA was my key to say, just like we study evidence-based medicines, we go through med school. Like, what are the best practices for building and managing a fund? What are the best practices for advising a company? And I feel like I got a better handle on that through my program.
Absolutely love it. You're absolutely right. I do miss out on a lot of opportunities within because I don't have an MBA. So I just want to be very clear about it. So I did make a pros and cons. What I just wanted to do was that, hey, I don't want to delay 2 more years to build my startup. And then I actually wrote down what my cons will be. One of them was network. which Edward Marks and Harvey Castro are amazing. I just text them, hey, do you have a phone number for this guy? And they find it for me.
That's the point, right? Like, if you're going to do an MBA, how do I do it while I'm still practicing? And so that's why I think a lot of the executive MBAs focused on physicians are probably the best way to do it, because it's built around a clinical schedule. I did mine, even though it's, even though I've never stepped a foot on Carey's business school campus, I did it. I was able to do it all on mine. Part of that was COVID, and part of that was they were building an online program. So I think you have to figure out how do I reach these current goals with my current working situation too. And I think that's got to be a big question that factors into how you do it.
And that's truly important too. Like, I just wanted to make sure that you guys understand that I have now a network of advisors, like Harvey, Ed, now John. He's going to introduce me to VCs. I don't have an M&A background, so I'm going to get advisors and M&A strategists. So there's so many ways to skin the cat. And just wanted to open your minds that physicians should be able to code, become software engineers, eventually product engineers. Number B, there's so many ways to skin the cat. Get in the game, please. Do not worry about it. It is a learning process. Take the first step, and then you're going to realize what the second step is. Maybe wrong. So what? I can come back and go to MBA right now too, right? So these are learning curves. Do not get hung up on specifics. Start, crawling so you can walk, and then you will run.
Hey,
so I'm grateful. Go ahead.
Hey, our audience is a mix, which is the way we wanted it. And so there's non-clinicians who are thing as well. And I just want to say, and I've said it before in other venues, that if you are a traditional CIO, like you're talking about traditional physician, and do I get my MBA or not? On the flip side, if you're a leader in healthcare and you don't have any clinical background, you need to figure out ways to get it, and you don't have to go to med school, and that's what I did, right? I worked in the OR one shift a week. I mean, anyone pretty much that's learned can take courses and become an anesthesia tech, just as one example. And that's what I did. And so I served one shift a week in the OR. And that gave me a lot of insights I never had. And there's other things that you can do. You can take clinical courses, of course. You could go get your BSN. You can do other things. But the same argument that you're all making about why you need to go and get some of this experience or education, I just want to make sure our non-clinical audience takes this to heart, because it's the same thing. I had less credibility when I was just tech, but I had tremendous credibility when people saw that I was willing to just spend one, and in addition to my regular job, I took a whole shift, every week, and I did other things as well. But that's just, and I have a little, because of my combat medic experience and things like that. So there's stuff you could do. I just want to make sure that we share that with the audience, that they should be listening, and if they're not clinicians, they should flip it. Hey, what can I do to get closer to the clinician side as you're trying to get closer to the business side?
So very important. What Edward said is that there is one thing called knowledge, and there is one thing called experience, and those can be stacked separately, either for clinicians or non-clinicians. And therefore, we're going to go through it. John, one more hard question. Now, I'm just going to be honest with you. It's probably easier to, advise, consult, as compared to building your own company, because you have to really get your hands wet.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's not easier to pick a winner than to create a winner, right?
I don't know. Picking a winner is very hard. I'm just going to be honest with you. It has been annoyingly hard to do that as well. So what I'm trying to say is that here's the last trick that I chose building a company. I do not recommend to anyone. I just going to be very honest with you. Nor picking a winner is so freaking hard, because just a reminder, I was actually, before I started this, I was an angel investor, did a lot of due diligence. I was also an advisor at some VC lab, I forget, and then looked at pitch decks, at least 1,000 of them, talked to founders, etc., how their problem solving is. Again, part and parcel of my learning. I like more again, my learning is different. I like hands-on, because I'm an ICU physician. I like to do the,
absolutely. Got to get the procedures.
So depends on what your learning method is. You're an ER physician, so now tell me your decision process.
Yeah.
When you were thinking from a fellowship, because again, the whole point is non-clinicians and clinicians to come in the innovation game. We want more people, and forget about the goddamn competition. Everyone has enough. It's just it's what 4.5 trillion already is going to be 6 trillion, 18% of the GDP. We have enough people to feed. What I'm going to say is that, John, walk people through. You're not in the way that why you made the decision. More importantly, if they were making a decision, how they should approach it.
Yeah, great question. Kind of going back to something I was saying earlier, ER docs are famous for burning out. It's fun to be the guy that leads the trauma team on a Saturday night, when you're in your 30s, and then when you're in your 40s, you're like, oh, I'm working 2 night shifts this weekend, and it's a little bit harder. Also, because we were the safety net, we kind of see where all the things that aren't happening right, and that can get people a little bit depressed, and so it's kind of a thing in emergency medicine. If you want career longevity, you gotta be like an ER doctor plus, right? Like, so you'll have ER doctors that are ultrasound gurus, or you'll have ER docs that are like trauma leaders, and so I just thought to myself, what's going to be my plus? What's going to keep me into this? And I love setting up these pitch events. I love hearing about these new companies. A lot of new businesses would come reach out to me and say, hey, what do you think of our product? What should we do with this? And I like being involved in that. And so I realized this is just an area that's really interesting to me. And so something where I can kind of leverage where I see these pain points in healthcare, and I can, give first person account where this is a pain point to me. This is a big thing. And maybe that's a pain point for the hospital where I'm working. And so wanting to kind of leverage that. And so that's been my background. And the other part of it, a lot of us, over the last 10 years in healthcare, physicians for the first time are more, hospital employees than their own, running their own practice. And so a lot of physicians kind of feel like a cog. And I've realized this is something, if you're in the trenches and you're building a solution or you're funding a solution, that helps you break out of this external locus of control to like, hey, I'm still in charge of my destiny, whether I'm an employee or whether I own my own practice. And so that's something I really like about it as well.
So beautifully said. Actually, I'm going to convert this to Ed now. Ed, as a non-clinician, if you want to become CIO of a hospital, there are so many ways to cut the threads. You can go through that process. But more importantly, if you don't want to be in the weeds of it, but become more of a money man or consultant or authorization, how would you, if you go back on your life and then sort of think about decisions? And most importantly, by the way, also I love it when you say that it's not about decisions, sometimes just life happens. But what I'm saying is that how would you approach it if you were an 18-year-old, 22-year-old someone?
Yeah, trying to go down into the CIO path.
As a non-clinician, which is, as a non-clinician.
Yeah. Well, for sure, like I said, you need, whatever the industry is, but obviously we're healthcare, you need to understand it at a ground-based level. So you need to take a position working in the lab, like working in radiology, work like I did. I was a combat medic, and then I worked in anesthesia. I was a tech. I think that's a ground that gives you the foundation to truly understand. Coming at it from a pure tech perspective, I mean, certainly people have made that transition and it's good, but I think it's always important to understand, right? Because you got to have the heart. Like, what are we doing? We're healing people. We're taking care of people. So it's always important to have that clinical basis. Not everyone can be a doctor. I wasn't a doctor, but there's other things you can do, like I'm sharing, that are not hard. Anyone can do them. And so I would even recommend going in and out in terms of your career. So you might start off as an anesthesia tech and then take a role in IT as an analyst. And then a few years later, maybe you go back and get your BSN, or you do pre-med or what it might be. And then you go back in on the IT side. I think the more you can weave the two together, the better you're prepared to lead. Now, certainly there's always examples of people who are pure clinicians and they jump over and they're awesome. And there's examples where it's just a pure tech person that comes in and they're awesome. But I think the strongest, and again, you're asking for a recommendation, is if I were to like try to plan it out, I would weave in and out. I would definitely become a clinician of some sort and then work in IT and just continuously meld the two together, because you never want to be all about the tech, because that's not what we're about. You never want to be just clinician because you don't want to ignore the tech, but it's that person like yourselves that can bring the two together to ultimately save lives and care for people in the worst times of their life.
Awesome discussion, John. Thank you so much. We might have to bring you back in, and then we're going to go ahead and do a specific discussion on maybe like what you exactly said. And by the way, Edward Marks loves this. His advisory is amazing. He has been very kind to me, how to talk to CFOs, CTOs, CEOs, board members, etc. His GTM strategy is so important. Please reach out to him if you haven't. And I'm very grateful to him personally that he taught me all of this. I'm going to ask two very specific questions. You're going to just say very one line answers, all three of you, and then we're going to go ahead and then close it out today, and we're going to bring John again. Number one, are entrepreneurs born or built? Is this a genetic or an environmental factor? That's number one. And then number two, my prediction is that primary care physician is going to go away. I don't know, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, because of AI, it is going to go away. What is going to replace it? One line answers, and then we're going to close it. We only have 3 minutes. I'm going to start with Ed first. And nobody repeat the answers. Sorry, go ahead. 2 questions, Ed. Ed is having some connectivity issues. John, why don't you start?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as born or built, I don't want to sound wishy-washy, but I think it's a combination of the two. I think some people are born salesmen. I think some people are born problem solvers. But one of the reasons that I like the training is because anybody can learn best practices. Anybody can learn ways to move ahead, and a lot of times everyone can learn humility and say, "Hey, I'm good on the clinical side," but the reason I'm building my venture fund with an operator is because I want both sets of knowledge in what I'm doing. As far as primary care, I'm going to be a contrarian there. I think that AI is going to enable them to increase and enhance their role. And what I mean by that is I think AI is going to allow them to kind of free up all the administrative things that they're not getting paid for, to go back and be, the quarterback for patient care. I think future practice is going to involve your primary care doctor. I think everyone's going to have like agentic AI tools, maybe like a physician AI that's involved with their care. But I think AI is actually going to enable them to enhance their position rather than have it be eliminated.
Ed, born or built?
Did you go back to me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know what's happening to my thing. So I'm going to take a hard stance. I won't be wishy-washy. You're born with certain traits to want to lead, to invent, you're born that way.
And what about what's going to replace primary care once it's gone because of AI? What do you think is going to be the new model?
Oh yeah, agents all the way. Yeah,
perfect.
And
Harvey,
within
I have a whole talk on this actually. It's actually both. There's some genetic components where we actually do have some genes that push us to be entrepreneurs and we are risk takers and whatnot. The environment will push you, and there's tons of examples. And on the second question, I actually am with John. I call it the great shift. And in that great shift, we're going to see different roles of how we practice medicine. And the primary care physician will be able to start doing medicine in a different level because of AI. And the dermatologist, as an example, will start seeing less cases that they normally would have seen because the primary care doctor will see it because of AI. So that's it.
I actually agree with Ed. Entrepreneurship is a genetic thing. Environment unlocks it. I'm just going to be very honest with you. If I was sitting in Pakistan, I will never be an entrepreneur. And I am from Pakistan. It's just that it's exactly like cancer. It is in your DNA. Something is already there. And then the environment actually unlocks the bullshit or the grading. Exactly. So I personally believe it is a genetic thing. And I'm going to go with that. I totally agree. Second part is that we are going to look at agentification of EHR charts, AI in medicine, etc. And I truly believe that we're going to see the the primary care going to AI plus APP or physician extenders, while physicians are going to move towards higher level of care, and hopefully it will bring both better care and everything. I'm so grateful to everyone, especially John, for joining us, Harvey from Amazon, and Ed. Finally, we're back in Dallas. Let's grab a steak together. And then thank you so much. See you next Wednesday, guys.